What's up, installers? It's your boy JP, the install guy, hoping to make your install life a little bit easier. And today we're going to talk about how to properly ground your car amplifier. Now, if you're into that type of thing, please consider subscribing or following, because that's what we do here at this channel. Anything that's car audio install or product review related, that's what this channel is about. Now, back here in this Camry, we have a Tesla TZ2100, and we actually have it grounded directly to the negative on our battery. That's because we have a limitless lithium Cyber 6K battery, and this style of lithium battery does not like heat, so it can't be installed in the engine bay. So we had to do what's called a battery delete and run all the proper wiring to the back and keep the battery in the back. Since we do have it like that, we're able to get our negative from our amplifier going directly to the battery for the path of least resistance. But for a lot of you guys, you don't have that option. So we're going to go over some different ways that you can ground your amplifier to your vehicle, both some bad examples that I've seen before and some good, better, best options. So this right here is a bad ground example. They did try to use a factory bolt that's inside the vehicle, but they tried to stuff a 4-gauge wire inside of a 10-gauge ring terminal, leaving way too much wire to be exposed. Since I was able to pull the wire out, that lets me know that it wasn't crimped properly, and the fact that the connector just fell means that it was barely holding on. We're here in my garage. We're going to use this metal shelf as our example. I don't feel like drilling a whole bunch of holes inside of my car or a customer's car. I don't mind drilling holes in here, so let's go ahead and get to that first connection. Now, when we're grounding our amplifier, we have to make sure that our ground cable has a solid crimp connection from the wire to the ring terminal. Now, some people like to take this a step further. After their crimp connection, they like to go ahead and add some solder to this just to make sure that it's fully solid on the inside. But then you want to make sure that there is no exposed wire. So we like to add some of our heat shrink. This right here is my custom printed heat shrink with my JP's Audio logo on it. Using a self tapper doesn't give this ground a whole lot of strength. And this right here is a good reason why your amp is probably cutting in and out. Every time you hit a bump and that ground goes like that, this thing is going to arc because you have the positive going into the amplifier and it's trying to get the negative from this point. Every time this ground is not touching the metal, it's going to cut your amp off, and then when it touches it again, you're probably going to have your amp going in protect mode because you don't have a good solid connection. Not only is this a loose connection, but there's still not a good metal to metal contact because the paint on your vehicle acts as a barrier between your ground cable's ring terminal and the chassis of the car. Now, this next ground connection right here, this is the one that we typically see from like other shops. It's not bad, but it's not the best. The paint is scratched off of the surface, so we definitely have a metal to metal contact. But the only thing that I don't like is the fact that we have now made 3 separate holes inside of this person's vehicle just to get that ground to stay stable. This ground is not going anywhere. I am moving the whole shelf. You have that middle self tapper to hold the ring terminal, and then you have the 2 self tappers on the outside to secure it from actually moving left or right, so you don't actually get this motion. When you're taking the paint away, there's a couple tools that you can use. This right here is just a regular steel brush that I got from Home Depot. Now, when you first buy this, the steel bristles are a little bit more frayed out than it is right now. To try to help contain that, I threw some zip ties on it. Now, they also make something like this, which is the exact same as this, and it has a little point in the middle. This right here is meant for you to drill an 1/8-inch hole inside of the metal, and this will actually mount inside that hole. These steel bristles right here scrape off a perfect circle around the area that you want to take the paint off. It already has like a thick little hard plastic silicone looking band on here to kind of keep these things in place, and that's what I was trying to replicate with the zip ties. And we don't need a really wide area of paint to be scraped off in order to get a good nice metal contact. This right here, exactly where you're about to mount it, is definitely enough. So this option right here is generally what I usually like to go for when I'm installing an amplifier, some sort of bolt, lock washer, and nut combination to ensure that we get the best connection for our grounds. It's sold by Metro. They usually come inside a kit. It's about 200 bucks, but we do offer these on the website right now in packs of 10. So you get 10 of these very large 13mm bolts. These are self-threading bolts, and you kind of tapers off down here at the bottom, so it goes through that 1/4-inch hole, but then it opens itself up and gets larger down here, and then it also helps threads itself. You almost don't need the nut on the back, but This is a flanged and serrated nut on the back, so it's almost locking itself on the back as well. And then you have this large lock washer to help complete the connection. Now, while we're talking about using bolts, so you may be wondering, why can't I just use a factory bolt inside the vehicle? I don't actually see a problem with that, as long as you can clean up around that area so you can have a metal to metal contact. But the main thing is that you need to measure the amount of resistance from whatever grounding point that you want to use inside your vehicle with the negative terminal at the battery. Measuring resistance between those 2 points will ensure that you have the perfect grounding spot to kind of decrease the amount of voltage drop that you may have in your high current draw system. And lastly, what we're going to try for our amplifier ground connection are these threaded nut certs. Now, I haven't used this one too tough, but I actually like the idea of it. It comes in a various amount of materials. You can get zinc, brass, stainless steel, something with good connectivity for your application, but there is another tool that you have to have in order to get this to work. This nutcert gave us a really solid connection, just like this bolt did. Now, that's not moving, and that's not moving as well. But the big differences between these two is that this nutcert is going to allow us to make that extremely serviceable. Now, if anything was to happen to where you needed to take this on and out, you're not going to mess up this 10mm bolt or any of those threads inside of this threaded nutcert. We can take this in and out 1,000 times and it's going to thread the exact same every single time. So I kind of like this connection. So even though I like this idea of using a nutcert and a 10mm bolt, and it's proven to be just as solid as this nut and bolt option right here, I can't sign off on it just yet because I have not tested it inside the vehicle. You definitely want to check resistance on this, but if it checks out, then this would definitely be a good option. So out of these 4 connections, this is definitely going to be the bad, the worst. Do not do this one. You're going to get a lot of voltage drop. It's going to arc. Your amp is going to go into protect mode. You can damage your equipment. We're not doing that. This is going to be good and, dare I say, acceptable. I've seen a lot of shops mount their amplifiers like this. When I first started in car audio, I mounted my amplifier like this. As I grown in my career, I started moving over to the best options, which would be using a nut and bolt inside of the vehicle. So I stepped away from that and moved to this one. This is a new one for me, so if it checks out, we may use these two. So bad, better, and best. If you guys find any value in this video, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, share, comment if you want to. But this time, I would like to thank anybody that chooses to support the channel. Whether you guys go down in the description and get your parts from those links or from the website, you guys sign up to be the Patreon, or you hit that fan subscription from the website, or if you found some value and you didn't want to be held down to something long term, you hit that super thanks down there at the bottom. All that goes a long way with me, and I greatly appreciate it. So until next time, this is your boy JP signing out, telling y'all to keep going, keep growing, and have a blessed day. Peace.